First off, thank everyone for being here. We give these quarterly updates, quarterly public safety updates. So this is the first quarterly public safety update of 2023. It's hard to believe that it is April 4th already. So we want to make sure that we do that. You know, since we declared the state of emergency, we wanted to make sure that we regularly engage on where we are with our public safety efforts. And also want to point out that when we talk about public safety, it also includes the fire department. Sometimes we just think public safety is just police, but public safety is also fire. So I'm glad that you are here. I'm joined today by our Rochester Police Department Chief, David Smith, Dr. Shirley Green, the Commissioner of the Department of Recreation and Human Services, Victor Saunders, our lead of the Office of Violence Prevention, as well as Rochester Fire Department Interim Chief, Teresa Everett. I want to take a moment to reinforce the fact that in order for us to be successful as it relates to public safety, we all have to work together. And I think that my team has been able to show that over the last 14 months that I've been here in office. And obviously the Rochester Fire Department, as I mentioned, is a critical part of this public safety. Recently, our city experienced several significant fires. As many of you know, you reported on those. And there's been an increase in vacant property fires in the month of March alone. And this is the first time that we've seen this uptick, so we wanted to make sure we address it. People across our community can help here. First of all, we need to make sure that everyone has working smoke detectors. So please make sure you have working smoke detectors in your home. And if you do not have a working smoke detector, please feel free to call 311 and the RFD will ensure that you get one. And in addition, if you see suspicious activity at any vacant house or building, please call and let us know. We have our NBD, Neighborhood and Business Development, and the Department of Environmental Services teams. They come up and board up vacant properties. But as we all know, that sometimes doesn't deter people from peeling back boards and trying to get in. So keep letting us know you're not bugging us. We are committed to reinforcing and, as many of you know, tearing down buildings that have become serious threats to our community. The reason why I'm bringing this up because I want to take the example, this opportunity to point out one example of how one building presented a serious threat to the neighborhood. Quentin, you can give me those, please. And I want to take the opportunity to commend the outstanding work of the men and women of multiple teams at the city who worked to help that neighborhood. On March 13th, a 5-alarm fire. Now, if any of you don't know fires, 5-alarm, it's a big deal, was called in at 301 Otis Street. A 5-alarm fire, thank God, is rare in our city. But our RFD led the charge to tackle this fire and protect more than a dozen neighborhood homes. We could have had an entire city block go up in flames had it not been for the brave men and women of the Rochester Fire Department who sprung into action to control that fire and ultimately get it put out. This fire went on for hours, and thank God it ended with no injuries and mainly being contained to that big building because they were smart in thinking, and that is a testament to the great training of the men and women of the Rochester Fire Department. I also want to thank our Department of Recreation and Human Services Person in Crisis team who mobilized to support the families who were displaced by the fire. As well as our code enforcement officers, they also played a big role in performing inspections of those affected homes, getting electrical work done and inspected, and arranging for emergency furnace and heater repairs. So I have letters of commendation for Chief Everett, Commissioner Green, and Commissioner Miller, and I hope that you will present these to the men and women of your departments. We have many of our fire department folks that are here. I see Eddie Santiago, who's here, who's president of the Firefighters Union. Where's our PIC? We got PIC workers. We got some of our PIC workers that are also here. This team was responsible for playing a major role in really saving our city. This could have gotten bad. It was bad, but it could have been a lot worse had it not been for these folks. This was a truly dangerous event and a daunting task, but all the departments stepped up and met this trial head on. The combined efforts of these teams delivered relief to the affected residents and helped avert the very real potential of a much more tragic outcome. So this is only a small token of our appreciation. We say that it takes a team, and this really does take a team, but one of our concerns is concern for public employees at City Hall. And we just want all of the departments, Fire Department, MBD, and DES to know that the Mayor of the City of Rochester recognized your hard work, and from the bottom of my heart and on behalf of the citizens of Rochester, I want to thank you. And it is my hope that the department heads will continue to send thank you to all of your teams. So, Commissioner Miller. And Commissioner Young. So Rochester, we are blessed. We have a great fire department, we have a great Department of Environmental Services, and a great neighborhood and business development department, but every department is great. But this tragic fire that took place last month could have been much worse had it not been for the folks that you see standing behind you in here. So thank you so much for that. Now I'd like to give an update. I want to shift to the emergency declaration, the state of emergency. There's some people who don't pay attention, so they sometimes ask, what are you doing? Why did you do the state of emergency? The gun violence emergency. Let me be clear. This gun violence emergency was done to deal with, guess what? Gun violence. This was not a silver bullet. It was not for show. So it's the reason why you don't see me getting up every month talking about it. We'll talk about it every quarter. As I've said, this was done to bring down gun violence. So when you do something, you want to look at the results. You want to see if it is having the intended effect. So we declared this emergency in July, and now we have hindsight to be able to look to see if it is having results. So let's look at the results. And the chief I will call him up in a second to talk more about some of the numbers of where we are as of the first quarter. Shooting deaths, which means someone picking up a gun and shooting someone, have dropped more than 57%. Shooting victims have dropped 48%. Shooting incidences are down 44.23%. I will have the chief elaborate on these numbers, and then I will have the rest of the team here weigh in around what I talk about all the time: prevention, intervention, and suppression. So the next question will be, how long will I keep the gun violence emergency in effect? It will remain in effect until I am satisfied with the numbers. Right now, I am extremely gratified, but I'm not yet satisfied because I want to see the numbers drop a little bit more. So we have made great progress, but we still have a way to go. But remember, this gun violence emergency was used to deal with the scourge of gun violence. It is a tool that I have employed, and you will hear our corporation counsel and the chief talk about why we employ that. But we also understand that that's the suppression side. Equally important, it's funny, my prevention side is standing over here. The prevention side is also extremely important. Although, let me be clear, the police department also does some of the prevention side because the Gun-Involved Violence Elimination Program, or GIVE, has also played a major role in decreasing these numbers. So, Chief Smith, I want to have you elaborate on, briefly on what the police department's role has been as public safety overhaul. If you have more questions about the state of emergency, my legal counsel, Linda Kingsley, can talk about that. We are headed in the right direction, but we still have a long way to go as it relates to gun violence. I told you last year around this time that I would use every single tool in my toolbox to address the issue of gun violence. We still have a long way to go, but I check the numbers weekly. And I want to stay in that, I want to continue to go in that direction. So with that, I will have the chief come up and give us a brief update. Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. Just in the interest of keeping it brief, I'm just going to go over a few numbers. Again, a reminder, all of our numbers and statistics are on the open data portal and available to everyone. So the percentages the mayor alluded to are year-to-year comparisons. So that percentage is based on this week in 2023 compared to this week in 2022. I can tell you that year-to-date, the hardworking men and women of the Rochester Police Department have taken 182 guns off the street so far this year. And again, I think we say almost daily on the news how difficult some of those arrests can be. It is not simply people walking in and handing over those firearms. So 2023 year to date, we have had 10 homicides. 6 of those are with firearms. A comparison, at this time last year in 2022, we had 17 homicides, 14 of them with firearms. So far year to date in 2023, we have had 34 shooting victims. In comparison, this time in the year 2022, we had 64 victims at this time last year. So things are definitely trending in the right way. I'm sure for a variety of reasons, no one solution is the solution. I can also tell you presently we still have 41 individuals who are being held under the federal system awaiting trial. These are individuals that were arrested with guns in the city of Rochester, 41 of them, and they were detained pending their trial because of their dangerous statute, their dangerous stature in the city of Rochester. Just to wrap up, we are looking forward to beginning a new initiative. We received funding from the state, DCJS, for a pilot program involving how we investigate non-fatal shootings. So that's going to involve teams who are actually going to respond to non-fatal shootings, comprised of investigators, an assistant district attorney, and some other folks. It's a pilot program that was done in Utica and Schenectady and had great results. We're privileged enough that we were accepted to be part of the pilot program here. We're looking to get it going very, very soon. But again, can't say enough about the hard work that the men and women in this department are doing. And just a reminder, you know, despite this success, our staffing shortage has not gone away. So we are going to go into the summer again facing a staffing shortage. So kudos to all the men and women in the RPD team, and thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Under the state of emergency declaration, we were able to close several establishments that attract violent crime. That is another tool that we have. So when you ask why would I declare a gun violence emergency, that's one of the reasons. There are places where people think they can do whatever the heck they want, not have a liquor license, not have an entertainment license. We're not going to tolerate that in the city of Rochester. And sometimes it's like whack-a-mole because they may try and do it elsewhere, but a lot of these places have been magnets for problems. And if we see a magnet for a problem, we will close them down. I know many in the media have been asking and reporting about vacant and substandard properties. Our law department continues to aggressively pursue negligent property owners and implement enforcement practices. And I'd like to call up Corporation Counsel Linda Kingsley to talk more about that. Linda?
Thank you, Mayor. So as the mayor noted, the law department continues to engage throughout the city on various quality of life issues. The city continues to renew the gun violence emergency and to use its emergency orders to be able to immediately address problem properties. This allows us to quickly stop a threat in the community while we seek longer-term solutions to the problems with the property owner and with the business owner. We do monthly meetings with my lead quality of life attorney who leads it, with RPD, RFD, code enforcement, and we look at where we need to target, where the problems are. I've also been going out to every platoon, every shift, so we can make sure we're hearing from the officers on the street about what are the locations we need to be focusing in on. We continue to utilize the pink envelopes to reach out to those who are purchasing drugs and engaging with drug dealers. There's been a particular emphasis on Clinton Avenue, but it is not limited to Clinton Avenue. As the mayor said, we have over time probably used the gun violence state of emergency to close, I would say, 12.5 businesses and get them in and address their problems. And to me, a success is when we can then safely reopen the business. Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. As most of you know, there was a shooting at a nightclub the other night. We don't have all the investigatory information in yet, but we are meeting with the club owner, in fact, immediately after this press conference. And they have been very forthcoming in working with us. We have a tattoo shop on North Clinton Avenue that we used the gun violence state of emergency to close. Not only did they not have a business permit to run a tattoo shop, but they were running after-hours parties there without a liquor license, without an entertainment license, just feeling free to do that. We have shut them down, and we're going to be seeking a court order to permanently shut them down because they're not all that compliant. There is a corner store on North Clinton that has a new owner and has had a focus of gun violence in recent months. We initiated a closure order, got the property owner in, and now have a settlement agreement as to the terms and conditions under which they can operate, and our expectations are clear in writing signed by the owner. Another property on North Clinton, we used a closure order under the gun violence emergency to stop illegal house parties. People are just taking houses and turning them into bars, again, without liquor licenses, without entertainment licenses, and creating all kinds of risks to the neighborhood and to our law enforcement that has to go out there and deal with them. Those are just a survey of some of the ways we have been using the gun violence state of emergency, but it is a valuable tool. We hear from law enforcement that it's a valuable tool. I see from my staff, because when we reach out to a property owner, they know they've got trouble, and they are coming into compliance a lot more quickly now that we're able to put a closure on them in an immediate manner.
Thank you. And we also hear from the community that it has been a valuable tool for them, particularly if they were living under hostage by folks in the neighborhood that think they can do whatever the heck they want. So we will continue to reevaluate that emergency, and when I see numbers that are satisfactory to me, then we may stop the emergency, but for the foreseeable future, the gun violence emergency will remain in effect. I'd like to now welcome Dr. Green on the podium to discuss opportunities for young people that young people have this spring to stay on track. We know that many of the challenges that we have in our community relate to young people, and it is critical that we zero in on our young folks to make sure that we get them opportunities to stay on the right track. So Dr. Green, if you want to talk about the work going on in the Department of Recreation and Human Services.
Thank you, Mayor Evans. The Department of Recreation and Human Services continues to emphasize creating opportunities for our youth. Last month, we partnered with Monroe County and the Rochester City School District through the work of ROC MBK to host a Youth Peace Summit. We had over 75 young people in attendance. Our Youth Voice One Vision leaders worked with the Student Leadership Council from the district to lead the workshops. Workshops included police and community involvement, bullying, building partnerships, building positive relationships with adults, and many other topics. This week, our centers are open Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. with engaging activities for youth ages 5 through 18. We also are holding our Spring Biz Kids this week for ages 14 to 17. This is where youth are learning to be entrepreneurs. They will be our future business owners. We are in the midst of our Summer of Opportunity program. We have received over 1,600 applications, and we are now working through the documentation and paperwork. Yes, we will have young people ages 14 to 21, but that's not all. We're also planning a summer growth and development training for ages 12 through 14. These young people are not quite ready to have a job, but they will be engaged in job prep, skill building, conflict resolution, and building positive interactions. And because we value our youth and we value the time that they are putting in, we will be offering these youth stipends during the summer. DRISE is busy, but we are busy with a purpose. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Green. Next, I'll have Victor come up, Victor Saunders of the Office of Violence Prevention. He has some exciting updates around Pathways to Peace and also reentry and some other programs. Victor.
I'd also like to thank the Rochester Fire Department and their leadership, as well as the PIC team and their leadership for their diligent service as first responders to the community, and we see the work that you do and appreciate you. Through the Office of Violence Prevention, we're doing a lot of different significant things in our office. To date, we have 10 Pathways to Peace staff members, including a school-based coordinator in Rochester schools. This increased school presence and allows the city to build relationships with the youth and provide valuable alternatives for violence, gangs, and drugs. I'd like to also thank the school district for allowing us to expand on our school-based team and the work that's currently taking place. We have 100 youth working currently with Pathways to Peace as clients. The teams have referred 50 students to outside agencies for services and resources within the last 6 months. At the end of 2022, Pathways to Peace was able to intervene in nearly 3,000 school-based situations. We responded to more than 80 Rochester Police Department calls for service and dispute assistance and 126 hospital pages as it relates to our Rochester Youth Violence Partnership Program with Strong and Rochester General Hospitals. The Pathways to Peace team clocked more than 5,000 hours in street outreach, and we are working collaboratively with other community organizations, and we're able to provide safe housing to nearly 30 people, and through pop-up employment opportunities at our office, we were offered nearly 130 people, more community members were brought in to assist in looking for employment. 30 were hired. Also, under our reentry program, we were able to provide previously incarcerated individuals with housing, employment opportunities, personal identification, and other necessary services to help them become successful. We were able to expand our city's partnership with the Center for Employment Opportunities and the Department of Environmental Services, thanks to a $150,000 grant. This allows the city to provide an additional 25 transitional jobs for residents, which helps them put food on the table at home, clothes on their children's back, and confidence in their heart. Our Advanced Peace model, which is a focus in the Dewey corridor of the city, is getting set to graduate its first cohort of participants, and celebration is set for mid-May. A number of our Rochester Peace Collective vendors have received their first allocations and began programming to assist in the anti-violence effort in the city of Rochester, and we are looking forward to collaborating with those different entities for the remainder of their contract time to work diligently with other entities within the city and offer more supports around the violence in the city and the traumas associated with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Victor. And as I always say, you start planting seeds and they bloom. 14 months in, hard to believe. Many of this stuff, you set it up. You set it up, and then you hope that you start to score the shots, or that you start planting those seeds, and you hope to be able to start to see them bloom. We will talk more about these things in my first state of, we gave an update to the community last year, but this year we'll have the Mayor's State of the City speech, which is coming up in a couple of weeks, where we'll talk about some of the, we'll look back, but we'll also look forward, and then the budget presentation, which will be next month, will also spell out the continued investment in many of the things that you have heard. So we wanted to provide you a quick update on what we're doing as it relates to public safety, and I will take a couple of questions before we have to wrap up, and these folks got to get back to work. Questions Who has any, who wants to start off with questions?
Yeah, question for the chief.
Yep.
Those 182 gun that you referenced, is there any source you get on where those originated from?
Actually, there is, and very soon, I think this month, we're going to be publishing our first gun trace data report, which was done in cooperation with Councilman Lightfoot and the Brady Institute. So we'll be putting that out very soon publicly.
Can I ask a follow-up as well, just on, you said you're going into the summer short-staffed. You mentioned, you know, how those conversations are going to plan for the summer, you know, prepare for what might happen with the department.
Sure. Well, it's going to be overtime intensive as last summer was, and you know that comes at a cost, not only a financial cost, but a cost on the personnel of the police department, an impact on their families, an impact on their lifestyle. We have to worry about trying to get everyone through the summer healthy and in a good position, and at the same time, you know, we have a lot of responsibilities in the community we need to make sure they're taken care of. So a major undertaking lies ahead.
And we'll continue to look innovatively to see how we can increase people who are interested in the profession, right? As people retire, you bring new people in. How can you attract people to want to come in and do this work? That is also a major component of this. We are down a lot of officers, and it's going to take a while to scale up, but we want to make sure we attract good people for these positions. Maybe I'll take 2 or 3 more questions, then I got to wrap up. Any other questions? Yes.
So you mentioned that, you know, you're not quite satisfied with where the shooting numbers are at. I looked at the data last week, and it looks like the shooting victims are comparable to what we saw pre-pandemic, you know, before this big spike. So what kind of threshold are you looking for, you know, as we continue to evolve?
Are you reading my mind? Now, pre-pandemic would be good to get to, right? Because, but even that, you know, we still want to do better than that. So I will say that pre-pandemic is a threshold that I am definitely looking at. If we can get there, that's a start, but then how can we drive it down from there? What happened during the pandemic, I mean, across the country was just really just unbelievable. I mean, the numbers in 2021 were frightening. And remember, we were down in shootings and shooting victims in 2022. So we've been trending down over the last 2 years, but we just have a long way to go to make sure that we even improve upon the pandemic numbers. But that is a threshold that I absolutely am looking at. Any other, who wants to have the last question? Anybody? Who likes getting the last word? All right. Well, thank you all so much for coming. We'll do these, like I said, quarterly. And again, I just want to thank again the men and women of the Rochester Fire Department, our PIC team, and the folks in Neighborhood and Business Development for all their support with the fire last month. And please convey to your teams my deepest appreciation. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming.